So the next tool in the Builder basic toolbox is Make. So Make is basically an automation app which allows you to connect all the different apps together. What you can think of like, hey, if I add something in Google Sheets, then automatically in Google Calendar, a calendar invite will be sent to the emails from Google Sheets, right? You can even do it with ChatGPT. You can do so many things. It's insane. It basically plugs and plays and meshes all the things together, right? Because all the individual apps and tools are just working individually. And this actually allows you to sync everything and make like workflows which help you get better work done, but even like helping delivering work. So let's jump onto it. Where are things starting to leak? So a lot of people, especially when you build, you do a lot of the same stuff, right? A lot of manual actions, and it costs a lot of time and effort. It's just a waste of time. Let's be honest, right? In the end, you have a lot of inconsistent follow-up. So especially when you do sales or like your staff, you forget some things to do. So you can set up automation to get people notified about the thing. So let's say a weekly check-in, right? You don't want to write every time, hey, what are you doing this week? No, you want to say like, hey, write down everyone what you're gonna do this week and then just automate it. So people need to write it down themselves. Context switching, right? So there's a lot of things that are not really working well together. Lost information, so you use one tool and the other tool is not plugged into it, and then information get lost. And human memory as a system. All right, so there's the golden builder rule. It's basically automate only what is stable and consistent. A lot of people, they want to automate everything. Me, I've been already doing marketing automation for many years, so I can easily see which process we should automate and not. But once you first step in, it might be a little bit difficult to see what you want to do. So just think about it. What is a process that's repeatable and comes over all the time and doesn't have like a lot of manual and complex things, right? So you don't want to automate confusion, right? Don't automate learning things. Don't automate decisions. So you just want to automate repetition. So what Make is responsible for? So one is triggers. So triggers are the point that things happen. Let's say if X happen, then Y happens. So in this case, let's say like when I add something to Google Sheet, then something happens, right? So if I click on a link, then something happens. Transformation is basically the part where does this translate into, right? So if I click on the link, so for transformation is basically the part you want to transform the data. It can be from one tool to another. Here's the routing, you send everything across. You can say if this happened, then that happened. Persistence is basically the same thing happens again. Orchestration, you can select everything and make everything combine together, and fallbacks, right? So if there's something not happening, you can create like an alternate scenario. What Make is actually good at is listening for events. Events are in this case things that happen online. It can be like if a user sends an email, for example. Reshaping data. So in this case, if you want to transform data to another tool, you can do that. Applying logic, if this, then that. Coordinating different steps. So you can create like a whole flow of different things. Handling errors. So in this case, you can document errors, for example, if something doesn't work with your workflow, and ensure that there's no data loss anywhere. So the 5 types of systems you can build with Make is intake systems, right? So once data comes in, then you do something with that. So turn signals into structured input. Examples, let's say like a message, a form, or event. Let's take a form, right? People fill in the first name, the last name, the email address. And then with that information, you can do something, let's say like send an email to this person, right? It's very simple. Processing system, so turn raw input into usable data. It can be, for example, that you have. That can be, for example, that you have a lot of different data, and you are missing some data. So you can use another tool to enrich this data, or you can even format it in a more usable manner. A lot of things, especially with automation, you have different file formats. Make can transform that in a different file, which is usable for. Let's say I record a video MKV, but I actually need a MP4, and with the MP4 I need to derive the sound from, so that's possible. Decision systems is if this happens, then that happens, and then you can set out different workflows for that. Replace manual adjustment with logic. So if, let's say, a client fills in 500 USD budget, then he get to send this proposal. But if he sends 5,000 USD budget, he get to send another proposal. Can all do that automated, right? Distribution system is basically you, for example, fill in one form and then it sends it out to all the other different tools. So let's say I have a social media scheduling tool like a Buffer, then it helps me to, let's say, send it to Buffer with certain conditions. So, right. Recording system, so you can track everything, all the different steps, all the logs, databases, history. I would say it's a little bit more an advanced tool, but you don't have to utilize it. It's not required, but it's really good to also understand, because once you start building systems and workflows and hire more people, that's the part where actually automation comes into place to substitute for either people, but also like a lot of manual stuff, right? That can really work effectively because you don't want to repeat the same thing all over again and again. The pattern behind every scenario. So most time there's a trigger. So this is the point that something happens that says to the system, hey, you need to do something, right? Then he normalizes the data in any kind of way that you want to, and he decides what to do. He takes a certain action, record it, and then always set a fallback if it doesn't happen accordingly. Generic example, so there's an input rise, the make process is routed into a certain direction, and then it's logged. Signals detected, such as an event, a click or something, right? It's then being enriched, there's a decision, and then it's being stored. Data received, you can summarize it or so, take an action, and then record it, right? Automation needs memory. So very important with automation tools, you need to store it somewhere, right? So for me, as I said earlier, Google Sheets is really good. I use this for database for my automations as well. So you can let everything flow. So let's say someone fills in the form, you can store it in Google Sheet, then you process it, and that output data you basically send over again. So you have the results from that. And then there are some certain decisions that you need to do. Let's say a status. If you manually need to set a status, which is active or inactive, he checks that yes or no. Is it a yes or no path? If it's active, then he comes out with the output, and output you can even store also in Google Sheets. So what not to automate? So unclear processes. First, make 100% sure that the process is super clear and that is repeatable, because with automation, things are there going in numbers and all the processes have to be pretty much the same, right? Don't put emotional decisions, because everything is based on logic and objectivity. Now, early experiments, if you just want to start out some things, don't have to build automation, because most likely you have to change it again. So in this case, don't do early experiments, just do it later. Rare edge cases is not worth to spend your time and energy. If it's just rare, it means that it doesn't happen a lot, right? And if you don't understand things, then please don't build it, because the output will never be good, right? Why all the successful builders use automation? So they have to do fewer manual steps, right? That means more time for yourself. You can use your brain power for other things. You don't have to do repetitive tasks. Easier delegation, right? So you dedicate it away and you don't have to do the same thing over again. Predictable outcomes, because you can decide everything how you want it. You can tweak it with automation, especially with a step as AI in between. You can tweak the prompt to make sure that it has more desirable outcome. A cleaner handoff, so like you don't have to touch it again and you don't have to think. All right, so how to start? Just pick one repeating pattern. Let's say like you need to set every time a calendar invite when you have a sales meeting, right? That's, for example, a thing. Just figure out, hey, what are the different steps? So you draw it out first and you define, hey, what is the information that I need and what information out, right? So in this case, is, for example, I had like a sales call, and after that sales call, I need to set up a meeting, and then I need to send an email after with the link to the meeting and the summary, right? So this is already 3 different steps. you just write it out, and the input is basically the information of the first name, the last name, the company name of the person you had a meeting with, and the email address, right? Then the output is basically setting a calendar invite, but also setting a summary of the meeting. And if you do the meeting, let's say like you can use AI to summarize the meeting. You use this summary to also add it to the output. So what you have is already automated flow. Beautiful. You decide what must be recorded. So along the way, there's a lot of information. Not everything is necessary. Just pick the ones that is necessary. Add a fallback. So let's say if there's an error, is there's a name missing or email address missing, then this happens, send the email to yourself or add it to a log system so you know. Now after then, that's build it, right? So let me show you a little bit like high level how it is. Yeah, so you have to connect everything, right? So you haven't created any connections yet. So connections are the most important part, but you have all the different tools. So the first step that you do, basically make a scenario, right? So let's make, they have so many templates, it's amazing, right? So just use Google Calendar, maybe. Okay, there we go. And then you can even search a little bit further. So let's say Google Calendar, and I want to have a form. So many different forms. Let's do Google form. Keep it in the Google suite. They don't have anything. Okay, that's fine. Great. Move from okay, Notion. Okay, this already workflow, right? So you connect then your Notion, then you connect your Google Calendar, and then after that, for example, Skip guide is set up. Don't need that. If it's your first time, just use it, right? Over here, just add them, and then after that, I want to send the email, for example. Email, right? Paste a draft. And then here you add all the stuff. What you can do is with Notion, once you connect it, you have all the information, and the same information you can use here again and again and again. Beautiful. Very powerful.